For over 2.5 millennia, one single city has felt like the center of the world, rising, falling, and then rising all over again. It's been the heart of a republic, the capital of a colossal empire, and the headquarters for a global faith. This, right here, is the incredible story of Rome, the eternal city.
How does that even happen? How does one city manage to stay so relevant for so long? It's a huge question, and to even begin to answer it, we have to go all the way back to the very beginning, to the myths, the legends, to see how a tiny little settlement on the Tiber River kicked off one of the most incredible journeys in human history. Okay, let's dive in. So our story kicks off with Rome's legendary founding and its very first radical transformation. That incredible moment when its people decided they'd had enough of kings and created a revolutionary new way to govern themselves. So the legend goes, Rome was founded way back in 753 BC and was ruled by a series of kings for its first couple of centuries. But then, in 509 BC, the Romans did something almost unheard of at the time. They got fed up, kicked out their last king, and decided to rule themselves. And just like that, the Roman Republic was born.
And you can't overstate how massive this shift was. Instead of one person, one king, holding all the power, the Republic sliced it up. Power was now shared between officials who were actually elected, a super powerful Senate, and assemblies that gave a voice to the common people. In a world totally run by monarchs and pharaohs, this was a complete and utter game changer.
All right, so with this brand new form of government in place, Rome was basically supercharged for its next chapter, explosive growth. This was the era of incredible military conquest that would take it from just a regional power to a mighty world-shaking empire. Rome's ambition pretty quickly put it on a collision course with the other big player in the Mediterranean, Carthage. What followed were the Punic Wars, a brutal, century-long fight for survival that tested Rome to its absolute limits. Winning didn't just mean survival. It's what turned Rome into a true overseas empire for the very first time.
But here's the irony. The Republic couldn't actually survive its own success. All that new wealth and power, it led to absolutely devastating civil wars. The assassination of Julius Caesar in 44 BC just plunged everything into chaos. The dust only settled when his adopted son, Octavian, came out on top. He took a new name, Augustus, and just like that, he became Rome's very first emperor. And under the peace brought by the emperors, the Pax Romana, the city of Rome itself just exploded in size. At its absolute peak, the population hit somewhere between 1 and 2 million people. To put that into perspective, this was a city larger than any city that had ever existed on Earth before. It was just massive. Augustus himself famously boasted about it. He said, "I found Rome a city of brick and left it a city of marble." And honestly, he wasn't really exaggerating. He kicked off an era of peace and unbelievable construction. He and the emperors who came after him built the forums, temples, and arenas that still define what Rome looks like today. But as we all know, no empire lasts forever. And the next act in Rome's story isn't one of building up, but of breaking down. This is the slow, painful, and dramatic collapse of Roman power in the West. The first real cracks started to show in the 3rd century. The empire was just torn apart by constant civil wars, it was crippled by economic disaster, and it was ravaged by plagues. The chaos was so bad that the entire system nearly collapsed from the inside out. So you've got chaos inside, and what's happening outside? The pressure on the borders just exploded. For centuries, Germanic tribes had been pushing against the frontiers. But now, with the empire totally distracted, they started to break through in huge numbers, putting the once invincible Roman legions on the back foot. And then came the year 410 AD. For the first time in 800 years, an enemy army, this time the Goths, breached the walls and actually sacked the city of Rome itself. The psychological shock across the empire was just immense. The unthinkable had actually happened. But get this, even after that first shocking sack, Rome was still a massive city. In the middle of the 5th century, the population was still over 650,000 people. But the fall was really just getting started, and the decline was picking up speed. Now look at this. Just look at this drop. By the end of the 6th century, after more wars and after losing its critical grain supply from Africa, Rome's population had completely collapsed to just 30,000 people. The once great capital of the world was just a shadow of its former self. It's just staggering. You can just feel the despair of the time in this quote from St. Jerome. He wrote, "The city which had taken the whole world was itself taken." You see, the fall of Rome wasn't just a military defeat. For people all across the known world, it really felt like the end of civilization itself. But Rome's story doesn't end in ruins, not even close. From the ashes of that old empire, a new power was about to rise. The city's third act is a story of total reinvention, as Rome transformed from a political capital into the spiritual heart of Western Christendom. So, with the old emperors gone, who's left to run the show? Well, the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, became the most powerful figure in the city. Through some really clever political alliances, the papacy secured its independence and established its own kingdom, the Papal States. So now the Pope wasn't just a spiritual leader, he was an earthly king, ruling over Rome for the next 1,000 years. And what did the popes do with all this power and money? Well, they turned Rome into the dazzling, glittering center of the Italian Renaissance. They became the greatest patrons of the arts the world had ever seen, commissioning masterpieces from absolute giants like Michelangelo, Raphael, and Botticelli. And I mean, just look at the results. We're talking about some of the most spectacular artistic achievements in all of human history. The magnificent new St. Peter's Basilica and the absolutely jaw-dropping ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, these are the ultimate symbols of Rome's incredible, spectacular rebirth. So we've covered a ton of ground, from republic to empire, from ruins to Renaissance. But how does this immense, layered history connect to the city we know today? And maybe more importantly, why does it still matter? Well, that brings us to Rome's eternal legacy. Rome's story of transformation didn't stop in the Renaissance, not by a long shot. In 1871, it became the capital of a brand new unified Italy. Then, in 1929, the Lateran Treaty officially created Vatican City as its own tiny sovereign state right inside Rome. And after World War II, it reemerged as the vibrant capital of the Italian Republic, even hosting the Summer Olympics in 1960. But really, why does any of this matter? Well, because Rome's fingerprints are literally all over our world today. Our legal codes are often based on Roman law. The Catholic Church is still a massive global institution. Roman architecture and engineering, their aqueducts, their roads, they still inspire us. And the Latin language, it's the mother of French, Spanish, Italian, and so many others. From a republic to an empire, from ruins to a renaissance, Rome has constantly, and I mean constantly, remade itself. It just makes you wonder, for a city that has already lived so many different lives, what on earth could possibly come next?